Hey, 8th graders, welcome to this explainer on American democracy and biblical liberty. Today, we're going on an incredible journey to uncover how we can truly measure fairness, accountability, and justice in our world. We're going to break down some pretty massive concepts into clear, understandable pieces. So get ready to focus in, because what we're covering today is essentially the instruction manual for the society you live in.
So how do we actually know if a government is doing its job? It's super easy to just assume that the folks in charge know what they're doing, right? But how do we, the citizens, hold powerful leaders accountable? It's a huge question. Well, to answer it, we can't just guess. We need a standard to measure them against, a living blueprint that tells us exactly what a healthy, just government is supposed to look like.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. 1. Foundations of American democracy. 2. Equality, no born rulers. 3. Liberty and respect united. 4. Power from the people. 5. The ultimate measuring stick. And finally, 6. Smart minds, good choices. Let's dive in.
Section 1. Foundations of American democracy. We call this the living blueprint.
Moving right along to Section 2, Equality, no born rulers.
Okay, so the big idea behind this blueprint is rooted straight in the Declaration of Independence, which boldly stated that all men are created equal. But let's actually pin down a precise definition for that kind of equality. Basically, it means that absolutely no one is born with the inherent right to rule over others just because of their family name or how much money they have. Think about it. For centuries, kings and queens ruled literally just because of who their parents were. Equality totally shatters that idea. You don't get to be in charge just because you were born rich or powerful.
So let me challenge you to think about this in practical, everyday terms. What's an insight of equality as it's described in the Declaration? Like, can you actually picture what this specific type of equality looks like in action when adults participate in our government? Take a quick second to think about what that really looks like.
Well, equality in action means that all citizens have the exact same right to vote, completely regardless of their social class. The voting booth is literally the ultimate equalizer. It's the definitive proof that no one is born to rule. When Election Day rolls around, your vote counts just as much as a billionaire's vote or a famous celebrity's vote. That's equality functioning in the real world.
But, as historians and critical thinkers, we've got to look at the past honestly. Back in 1776, the reality was that these revolutionary ideals definitely didn't apply equally to everyone right away. However, the very words they wrote planted some massive, vital seeds. They literally created the exact standard that future generations would end up using to demand full equality and liberty over time.
All right, Section 3. Liberty and respect united. Freedom with honor.
Now, the absolutely crucial point here is how we actually define liberty. Liberty is the right to make choices about your own life, as long as you do not harm others. Notice that super important caveat at the end of that sentence. True freedom requires immense responsibility. Your personal freedom stops right at the exact boundary where harming someone else begins. It's definitely not a free pass to do whatever you want without consequence.
Let's make this totally tangible. How does liberty affect daily life? How do you, personally, experience this massive historic concept on just a regular school day? Or when you're hanging out with your friends? Think about how liberty actually shows up for you.
Well, here's a perfect everyday example. Freedom of speech allows citizens to express their opinions, even really critical ones, about the government without any fear of punishment. Being able to safely speak your mind, write an article, or even post a video explaining why you disagree with powerful people, that is exactly what liberty in action looks like.
Now let's see how this builds with a foundational biblical principle. 1 Peter 2:17 tells us, "Show proper respect to everyone. Love the brotherhood of believers, fear God, honor the king." This verse perfectly illustrates that freedom and respect have to go hand in hand. Biblical liberty is never, ever an excuse for dishonor, chaos, or treating others poorly. You can totally have the freedom to disagree while still maintaining a culture of deep respect.
Moving to Section 4, Power from the People. Consent of the governed.
So, consent of the governed means that leaders get their power directly from the people. And, critically, the people can withdraw that power if those leaders abuse it. Really think about that for a second. The leaders work for the citizens. The citizens don't just exist to serve the leaders. In this system, you are the one holding the ultimate power.
And that leads us to a pretty dramatic and important question. What actually happens when a government loses the consent of its people?
Like, what are the real consequences for a government that completely ignores the very citizens it's supposed to serve and protect?
The answer to that is the absolute bedrock of democracy. People can replace those leaders through elections or other legal processes, ensuring that the power always remains right where it belongs, with the citizens. When leaders ignore the ideals we've been talking about today, citizens have the absolute right and sometimes even the duty to demand change and replace them legally.
Which brings us to Section 5, the ultimate measuring stick, judging progress toward justice.
Okay, so here's your brand new civic toolkit. The measuring stick of justice relies on 3 things. 1, equality. 2, liberty. And 3, consent of the governed. By fully understanding these 3 ideals, you can objectively evaluate whether any government anywhere in the world is actually living up to its purpose. You know, these aren't just old, dusty words. They're the exact measuring stick Americans continue to use today to judge our progress toward true justice.
And our final section, Section 6, Smart Minds, Good Choices, the HeroesMart Academy Philosophy.
Here is an absolutely crucial takeaway for your own personal growth. Education without morality will hurt. Basically, what's the point of being smart if you just continue to make bad choices? This right here is the very core of the HeroesMart Academy Godly Learners series. Being quote-unquote smart and highly educated just isn't enough if you lack the moral compass to make good, healthy choices. Intertwining biblical morality with your education is exactly what keeps you grounded, and it prevents your knowledge from being used in destructive ways.
So, what's the ultimate reward for doing all this? Well, Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. That's the true experience you gain when you really engage with this kind of learning. When you pair your academic education with strong biblical morality, you don't just get smart, you achieve genuine peace of mind. And that is a real game changer.
All right, to really lock in what we've covered today, here's your challenge. Number 1, define equality in your own words. 2, give an insight of liberty. 3, explain what consent of the governed means. 4, tell me why these ideals are so important in a democracy. And finally, number 5,
I'm leaving you with a final, provocative question to think deeply about. Which of these 3 ideals, equality, liberty, or consent of the governed, do you think is the absolute hardest to achieve and why? There's no easy answer here, but I want you to take these ideas and apply them to the real world. Think critically about it, and we'll catch you next time on The Explainer.